Love, love, love. At the time of recording this episode, it's Valentine's Day, and we're teaching you how to talk about love, relationships, and date night plans in Espanol.
We are going to learn how to say things like, I have a date in Spanish, or I'm going out for dinner. And even if you don't have Valentine's plan, stay tuned, because this episode will help you practice using the simple future tense, essential for all beginner learners. Feliz San Valentín, amigos.
Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola, amigos. I'm Val, your experienced Spanish teacher and co-host from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
We'll help you get confident listening and speaking beginner Spanish with content you can actually use in real-life conversations.
Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on socials at Spanglish_Friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos. El amor es una magia, una simple fantasía.
Increíble, Profe Val. Love is definitely in the air. Bienvenidos de nuevo, Spanglish amigos, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone celebrating.
Feliz San Valentín, amigos. And welcome to episode 47. Bienvenidos al nuestro episodio 47.
Yes, we're talking all about amor, love in Spanish. You told us that you loved our Christmas episode, so we're continuing the good vibes with San Valentín, Valentine's Day in Espanol.
See, whether you're celebrating with a partner, friends, family, or just loving yourself, this episode is for you.
And we're answering 3 questions beginner Spanish learners might have about love in Espanol. The first being, how do you say I love you in Spanish? Secondly, how do you talk about your loved ones in Spanish, like partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, or someone you're dating? And third and final question, how do you talk about your Valentine's Day plans in Spanish using the simple future tense?
You'll hear all of this first in a short conversation, and then we'll break it down step by step. Here, Em and I are going to be discussing about our Valentine's Day plans.
Ooh, and remember, friends, you don't need to understand every word. Just listen for anything that's familiar to start with to prove to yourself that, yes, your Spanish listening skills are growing.
Entonces, amiga, ¿estás lista? Are you ready?
Sí, 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 Profe Val, con mucho amor, comencemos.
Hoy es el día de San Valentín.
Sí, y tengo una cita con mi novio. Voy a salir a cenar con él.
Ay, qué romántico.
¿Y cuáles son tus planes, Val?
Voy a salir con mi mejor amiga y celebramos juntas.
Ah, genial. Te quiero mucho, mejor amiga.
Ay, yo también te quiero mucho, mi mejor amiga. Feliz San Valentín. Okay, amigos. Entonces, if that felt fast, that's totally normal.
What you heard was a simple conversation about Valentine's Day, talking about relationships, saying I love you as best friends and sharing plans.
Exactamente. Now, let's slow it down and break it into little pieces.
Yes, starting with the phrase everyone wants to say today, I love you.
I love you. In Spanish, we have 2 common ways, which are te quiero and te amo.
Now, this can be confusing because in English, there's only one way to say I love you. So what's the difference here, Profe Val?
Here we are going into levels, depending how much you love someone. Te quiero means something like I love you, but with a sense of I care for you. You're important to me, and I really appreciate you. You can use it with friends, family, and romantic partners, especially in everyday situations. You can say te quiero to your best friend or someone you just start dating.
Yes, Val and I used te quiero in that little mini conversation just before. From a dating perspective as well, te quiero is also common early in relationships. For example, te quiero mucho means I love you a lot. I care for you a lot.
Now, using te amo comes from the verb amar, which means to love. And this one is the stronger and more intense. Okay? Usually for deep romantic love, long term relationships, close family members like your mom, dad, and siblings.
That's right, really true and deep love. For example, te amo, mi amor. I love you, my love. Very
Very
romantic.
romantic. So remember, te quiero is softer and more common. Also, you can use it in early stage of your relationship, while te amo is deeper and more intense and use it with your family, like with your close family members and your partner in a long term.
Now let's talk about the people we love in Espanol.
Here are some common words you'll need. They include mi amigo or mi amiga, which are my friends. Mi amigo, male friend, and mi amiga, female friend. Or you can also add more and say mi mejor amigo or mi mejor amiga. This means my best friend. Then we have mi pareja. Mi pareja means my partner. Then we have novio, boyfriend, or novia, girlfriend. Note that in some countries, like Chile, for example, this means your fiance. Okay? In some countries. So there, to say like girlfriend or boyfriend, they would instead say pololo or polola.
Mm.
Important note there. Another one, your husband would be esposo and wife would be esposa. And if you want to sound very romantic when talking to that person you truly love, you can say mi amor, my love, before any sentence. And it's very common in Spanish.
And how do you say you have a date in Spanish, Profe Val?
Oh, you can use the sentence structure tengo una cita con, which means literally I have a date with. Then you can combine this with a person.
Okay, for example, tengo, I have una cita, a date con, with mi novio, with my boyfriend. And this is exactly what I said in the mini conversation. Tengo una cita con mi novio. They were my Valentine plans.
Now let's talk about the plans by themselves. Here we are practicing the simple future using voy a plus a verb, which means I'm going to plus the action you are going to do.
Yeah, so some useful examples for the day of love include voy a salir a cenar, which means I'm going to go out to dinner. You could use voy a salir con mi pareja. I'm going to go out with my partner. Or voy a salir a cenar con él. I'm going to go out for dinner with him. I actually use this in our mini conversation. So you could say voy a salir a cenar con él or voy a salir a cenar con ella, which means I'm going to go out with her.
I also used one of these structures in our mini conversation. En nuestra conversación, I said, voy a salir con mi mejor amiga. You can say, I'm going out with my best friend. And then you could also add, as I said in our mini conversation, celebramos juntas. We are celebrating together. You could also say things like, voy a dar regalos. I'm going to give gifts. Voy a dar chocolates. I'm going to give chocolates. Or voy a dar flores. I'm going to give flowers.
How cool is that? Spanglish Friends, you can talk about el amor en español now and talk about your Valentine's Day plans. Quickly recapping the tres cosas útiles, the three useful things we learned today so they get cemented in your mind. Número uno, which is how to say I love you in Spanish. We learned the difference of when to use te quiero versus te amo. The second thing we learned is how to talk about your loved ones, the different names for the loved ones in Spanish, and how to say if you have a date using the sentence structure, tengo una cita con plus the person. And the third thing you learned, the última cosa, número tres, you learned how to talk about your Valentine's Day plans using the simple future tense of voy a plus the verb action that you're going to take.
Like, for example, voy a salir a cenar. I'm going out for dinner. O tengo una cita con mi esposo. I have a date with my husband. And since today is Valentine's Day, your challenge is extra special, friends. Write one simple sentence in Spanish about love or your plans for Valentine's Day. Example, voy a salir a cenar con mis amigos. I'm going out for dinner with my friends. Or tengo una cita con plus the person. Tengo una cita con mi novio. I have a date with my boyfriend. or novia with my girlfriend.
Share your answers in the comments or send us a direct message on Instagram. We can't wait to see your new Espanol in action.
See, speaking of people we love, it's time for our Spanglish Friends shout out of the week. This week's shout out goes to Sisi, who participated in our Christmas challenge and shared her plans con su familia. She said, celebro Navidad con mi familia. I celebrate Christmas with my family.
Amazing work, Cece. Thanks for being involved in our community and for your awesome suggestion for us to do this Valentine's Day episode as well. Shout out to you, Cece. And as always, Spanglish friends, remember, practice makes progress, not perfection.
And quick spoiler alert. Next week, we are going to be diving into how to ask someone else about what they do for work in Spanish, how you can ask that person, and also how you can react naturally like, whoa, that's interesting, or how cool, and keep the conversation flowing as a beginner.
So important to have those little joining words to keep conversations flowing as a beginner. How good. Hasta luego, friends. Feliz Dia of the San Valentin and happy Valentine's Day to all. See you next week.
Nos vemos. Thanks for listening to Spanglish Friends. We're both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us, leave a rating, or tell a friend about the show. It helps our awesome community grow.
Join fellow beginner Spanish learners by following us on Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_friends.
Congratulations on taking another step in your Spanish learning journey.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.